So the sessions that I attended today were the Designing Communities Around Neighborliness and the Entangled Economics sessions. And so some of the kind of things that came out for me when we were talking about that, the Designing Communities Around Neighborliness, there was one part where we were getting really, really nerdy about streets. And Chris Campany was talking about how there's something called a median refuge, where you can like cross half of the street and then you have a median to take refuge in before you cross the rest of it. And it really made me think, like, sometimes I get stressed that there's like so many conferences all the time, and I'm just like, so much time and energy and money is going into conferences. Like, should we be doing a conference? Like, is it actually worth it? And then I thought about it, and it was like, sort of like that median refuge, right? We're all doing our work, and then we get this time to just stop and like really pause and make sure we're together, make sure we have a plan, and like just to be together and be safe. And so that to me was like something that kind of stuck out to me before we keep going. I also really loved this quote, "Planning is a contact sport." So get in the game. You gotta like, if you wanna see something in your community, as often as you can, show up or make it possible for other people to show up. And then I wanted to share a story from lunch when I was so thrilled that attendees self-organized topic-specific lunches. Like, that just brought so much joy to my heart. And the one that I went to was the queer lunch, and we were just talking about joy and all the ways that we're experiencing joy lately. And it's amazing that it was so easy for me to access joy in that moment, because I've been experiencing it in such deep and visceral ways for a while now, but particularly in this time with you all. And a story was told that I felt like also kind of pulled together some of our sessions, where someone's joy that they had was that they live in a mountain bike community, and the mountain bikes are too expensive to purchase. And so she hasn't been able to participate in this community. And their library, because we had this thing on libraries just to make the connection, now has a library of including bikes. And so she's been able to actually borrow a mountain bike from the library and go biking now. And just talking about that feeling as you're like rushing down the hill and it being like you're a kid again, and accessing that levity and that joy. And I just thought that was a beautiful combination of so many of the topics that we've talked about this week, from the sharing bonanza to outdoor economies, to the libraries and the role that they play. And then in this last session, we got really like uplifting. Who was in the Entangled Economics session? So just really, no, I'm kidding. It was really deep and intense, right? And I was thinking while I was sitting there, I was like, should we have done this as the last one? Like, wow. But in some ways, it really ties to the opening when I talked about getting to the root of things, and how that actually is more hopeful. Because closing your eyes and pretending that something isn't happening doesn't make it go away, and it leaves you much less prepared for what's coming. And so, in my view, facing the reality and facing the truth so that we can sit with it like that ball of yarn that I talked about in the beginning, and make sure that the threads that we're tugging are the threads that we should be tugging, or if we should let them be, just taking that pause to actually examine. And so that, to me, felt full of joy and hope amidst the really difficult realities that we have to hold and face. So if that was just my experience and just a few snippets of today, I am so interested in what you all have pulled away. And I would love to hear just like 5 things shouted out about something that you've learned or experienced today, or something you're walking away with.
There's so many things to share.
So many things to share. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else? Yes.
We should
Share more. Yes, the sharing thing's really taken on. Okay, so we got 3 more. Yes! Amazing! I'm learning how to use ham radio. And in the case that other communication systems go down, you have something. Amazing. Okay, 2 more? Yes. Oh, thank you. Yeah, yeah. So appreciating the community that we had last night and wanting more of that. One more? Yes. Being grateful that others are sharing their knowledge. So thank you all. I yield the rest of the time to Ed and Alexis to bring us home. I will send you off right at the end, but Ed and Alexis, thank you so much for bringing us home and helping us to tie all these themes together.
Hey, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for staying to the end. It's been so good to see you all in our sessions and in the other sessions and walking around town and over meals. It's been a gift. And it's a gift to be here in this closing session of this gathering that, as you all have just shared, has offered all of us so much. It's offered Ed and me a lot, and it sounds like it's offered you all a lot too. So we want to begin by simply saying thank you. Thank you for the way that you all have shown up for each other, for the land, for your communities, for your stories that have been shared, that have been received across these last 2 days. We held a session yesterday morning. Was that just yesterday? Yeah, just yesterday, right?
That was yesterday.
That was about thriving futures. And what we've been doing here is practicing what it means to live into a thriving future. Not just by imagining it, but by remembering that the seeds of that future are already here with us. In our towns, in our libraries, in our neighbors, in our lineages, and in the land. We've been practicing what Beth Tenner this morning so beautifully called resonant listening. That kind that doesn't just gather information to be able to respond, but that gathers people in relationship. We've heard how libraries, many, think of libraries just as buildings for books, but truly they're the commons. They are the true commons of possibility in our community. This morning they talked about libraries as third spaces, spaces to learn, to grieve, to preserve culture, to fix what's broken, and to imagine what comes next. They're places where people can let their needs be met for a mountain bike or whatever it may be, and find what they need for their lives and their livelihoods, like maker spaces that have sewing machines that people can use, and 3D printers and weatherization tools, but are also places where there are collections of oral histories or hot spots that people may need to have access to the internet, to connect to others with care. And we've practiced something powerful in the spaces that we held, too, through the Mending the Arc story workshops we led. We dreamed together about a future 150 years, about 7 generations from where we are now. And what you all shared, what you all dreamed, was, among other things, that every child would wake up knowing they are sacred. That town meetings are sacred too, and joyfully attended. That food, safety, and care are abundant and shared. You all dreamed that we arrived at a place where we moved beyond trauma as the defining story and built structures that support healing and curiosity and connection. Then we rooted those dreams in the next workshop in the wisdom of the people and the places that came before us. In our ancestor storytelling circle, we remembered how ancestors and elders taught us to live with purpose and care. Things like living modestly, not to shrink, but to resist the pull into constant consumption. To be generous by trusting that what we give returns in time in ways we can't always predict. We remembered ancestors who taught us to work hard, not just for ourselves, but for something bigger. And sometimes to just get on with it, to rise, to get up, to dust yourself off, to arise and do the thing even if we aren't sure how. We heard of grandmothers who fed 18 children and never ran out of food, of aunts who made beauty out of whatever they had, and of a grandfather who offered shelter to a classmate who was being ostracized and said, "You'll be my friend." We saw that governance doesn't start with budgets or ballots. It starts with rituals of care, like Sunday breakfasts, shared gardens, or names passed down across 5 generations, with someone deciding, I may not have known my great-grandmother, but I carry her courage anyway. Our ancestors practiced governance through how they showed up, through how they insisted on love, through how they kept going, for how they said yes to community, even when the world and systems may have said no. They found resilience in hard things, just like old growth trees do, growing towards the light, even after harm or after storms. So today, as we close, we're not just wrapping up a conference. We're actually standing in a doorway, a threshold of sacred responsibility, which is going to be the theme of our closing. We're in a moment in this country that feels frayed, where it's easy to make assumptions about each other based on where we come from, how we vote, what we look like, what part of the country we call home. Where polarization and fear and exhaustion threaten to pull us apart. But in our story circles and in this gathering, we've been practicing something different. We've been remembering something different. We remembered that our ancestors, whether in rural Georgia, on rocky coasts, in refugee kitchens, in Sunday porches, model what it means to build community across hardship. They lived through war, our ancestors did, through displacement, through violence, grief, and still they passed on the seeds of care, courage, and connection. And our descendants, the ones we dreamed of this week, they're watching. And they're the reason we keep going. They're the ones who are going to inherit the decisions that we make, the stories we tell, and the systems we build or dismantle. This next hour is an invitation to tell your part of that story. Ed's going to explain the process that we're going to do today. Sorry that I didn't give you the warm-up reminder. You will turn to your neighbor. You will have a chance to talk. But you're going to have a chance to tell a story about something that's calling to you, something that's true in you. In your own words, in your own rhythm, you'll share what's alive, and you'll listen to other people with care. Because that's what we've been doing with our stories. We've been remembering that sharing our stories, allowing ourselves to be seen, witnessing someone else's stories, allowing ourselves to be moved by the vibration of their truth is sacred. And then Ed and I are going to close with our own final stories, and we'll all leave carrying seeds with us. Seeds of community, creativity, possibility, and practice. Because there's no perfection. There's just practice. You going to lead us in practice, Ed?
Sure thing.
All right. Here we go.
Thank you, Alexis. Thank you for that way of summarizing some parts of what it's been to be together at this conference. And it has been sweet to be here with you all. It's a gift to be a part of the opening and a part of the closing. And it's been a gift to be here for me personally, as somebody shaped by rural communities, whose work oftentimes hasn't been in rural communities, but who, after being here, feeling the energy of this place, listening to people share about what they're passionate about and what they care about, it has become clear to me that there are new things that are possible. There are bigger ways that I can have an impact in the communities that helped shape me. So, we're going to start by asking a question. And that question is the same one that's been coming up for me over and over again during this conference, and that's, what's one possibility or insight or challenge that is alive in you right now after this conference? Is there something new that has emerged? And I'm just going to pause for a second to consider what that new possibility, insight, or challenge might be. And then Alexis is going to get the clicker. And we have some slides, too, that are going to be useful up here. So as Alexis gets a hold of the slides that we have, and you are settling into a new possibility that's emerging for you, we're going to share with you what we call story circles that our dear friend and elder, oftentimes collaborator, Becky Misaki, she created these story circles. There's 10 of them. And they are a beautiful thing. If anybody is familiar with the story of the ox herder, which is an old ancient story, they're loosely aligned with the story of the ox herder. But they have this tremendous potential. They basically do that thing where between the 10 circles, it basically helps you land some aspect of where you're at in any transition or in any doorway that you're trying to walk through. And so we're going to read through these 10 story circles and ask you to consider which one feels the most resonant to you, which one helps describe where you're at as you consider the big possibility that is emerging for yourself. And so the first circle is called a potent pivot. It's for intentional awareness in interrupting habits. And here you can see Becky Misaki's hand-drawn art, everything from the enzo in the circle to her way of capturing the potent pivot. And after the potent pivot, we have returning to root and source. Streams meander on, flowers naturally bloom. In everyday life are found the most profound truths. And after returning to root and source, we have the third path. The third path transcends duality. Practice itself is the realization.
Oops.
And there's Becky's art. And after the third path, we have in the world renewed. Creative energy and ordinary things are extraordinary. Even withered trees bloom. And next, we have discovering footprints. Along the riverbank, under the trees, I discover footprints. And after those footprints, connecting and flowing in harmony. Whoever hears this melody joins me. And then we have both transcend with the question, the provocative question, how may a snowflake exist in a raging fire? The heavens are so vast, no message can stain it. And next we have in a seemingly impenetrable ravine. It represents a terrific struggle. And finally we have searching. In the pasture of the world, I endlessly push aside the tall grasses in search of and then we have perceiving a glimpse, seeing a glimpse, but not yet whole. And so there you have Becky Masaki's 10 story circles. So what we're going to ask you to do is to find a partner again, take a moment, and just let the artwork and those taglines, those sayings, those provocative questions sit with you for a second. And as you consider, that possibility that emerged for you, which circle seems to call to you the most? And then we're going to invite you to just allow a story to come forward, a story of how you find yourself in that circle in relationship to the possibility that you feel emerging. So you can go ahead and find a partner. And we're going to take a few minutes to let you tell those stories.
Thank your partner for sharing stories of possibility and what may be coming next for you. And so Ed and I got to hear the energy in the room, but we can't hear anything about what you all have said. And so we would love to hear if there are those of you who can share holding the sacredness of your partner's story and of your story. But we want to invite you to share a phrase that captures the collective wisdom or the feelings of the story, of the possibility, of the seeds that are emerging as we begin to transition out of this place. So we have someone who's running a mic.
Just wave your hand.
So just wave your hand. Yay,
right.
Look at hands.
Let's see. We both need time to integrate and might need to go home to let it percolate a little. Yeah, there was a lot. There were a lot of seeds planted, and I've got so many ideas. And just allowing for the time that is needed, and that that's okay. I don't have to have the right story right now.
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of overlap in our conversation, and we didn't say these words verbatim, but what came to me was, and you also said it, planting a seed, but it's okay you have to plant a seed for something to grow, but you don't have to be the one caring for that thing that you grow the entire way through, and there's a time where you have to go and plant another seed, and you're not going to spend your whole life on one plant, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And in slightly different ways, I think we were both talking about moving forward.
Moving forward.
So we talked
initially, in the context of the withered tree blooming and how burnt out and used up we often feel in our work, and we kind of riffed on that a little bit, but I would posit that the truth of our conversation really lies in the third path, that there is something for us between being all in and stepping away, and that there is another way to approach this work and what we're all trying to build together.
Yes, there's something between being all in and stepping away.
We talked a lot about taking a lot of the wisdom to become renewed, and that to become renewed and find that third path, it follows a lot of the searching, a process of questions more than answers, of awe and curiosity and wonder, rather than any universal truths.
Yes. Questions, curiosity, wonder. Is there one more? Back over this side. Steps.
It's great for steps, yeah.
Steps, sorry.
I think this is third path oriented. In the session I just came from leading, we talked about living the questions that protect what's still possible, and a question, third path kind of question emerged through our sharing. How would a librarian approach my job?
Oh.
Be more librarian.
Be more librarian.
I thought of like the glimpse one, but not the whole, because I go to Radically Rural and I go to the Brownfields project, but I can't really do anything. I'm just getting a glimpse of what it's like.
Yeah. We're so glad too. Thank you. Thank you all. Oh, one more. Okay. All the way up front.
I was really just going to say, you do a lot through Kate. You're doing great.
Yay! Thank you so much. Thank you all for sharing. Thank you all for your willingness to participate. And Ed, which one of the circles speaks to you in this moment?
Well, we were talking up here a little bit, and the first thing that caught my eye was the in harmony, connecting and flowing in harmony circle. And the reason for that, I don't know how it feels for you all in your work, but in the work that we do, sometimes we come into a new place, and it can take a lot of energy and a lot of paying attention and a lot of really careful listening to figure out how to be in good relationship and good flow and to be useful with everyone. And the moment that we got here, it was just like the energy could pick you up and take you away, and it was joyful, and it was good energy and people excited to see each other. And then on top of that, like people with different areas of expertise, all different areas of expertise that were together. And I've just so appreciated how much fun and how easy it actually has been to just step into the flow. And I think that's, when I think about the story that's emerging for me about what's possible, there's a ticket to that. There's a trusting that we are people who know how to build the relationships in the community and bring the know-how that can make the difference in a community like this at a conference and when we go back home as well. And so when I think about my time here, I've heard all sorts of amazing things. The people that came to the storytelling sessions that Alexis and I did, it was so moving to see how people brought their descendants and their ancestors and just shared them so willingly with such details about what they want to see and what they want to heal. And then, I've talked with people who have brilliant ideas about building economies and people who care deeply about libraries and journalism, somebody who's caring for like the coming back of the bats who have been disappearing across the country. I've talked to artists who are thriving in their art practices, people who think about housing, small businesses, the natural resources, all of that kind of stuff, all that expertise is in this room with all of that good energy, the combination of brilliance and joy and energy and courage and creativity and resilience is what we need in this particular period of time as well. And so this radically rural time together has really caused me to think about how I can step more fully into the relationship with the small towns that have created me and with the places that I live. You know, I have the places that I am commonly at with my parents. I have Duluth where I live. And this is inspiring me to think a little bit about how we spark this kind of energy and this kind of possibility locally. And so as I think about the ways that I'm going to do that, I hope that everybody in this space is doing the same, is thinking about that sacred threshold that Alexis talked about, and how we step into taking on the responsibility, not of taking on more work and more burnout and in the stuff that depletes us, but where there might actually be those third paths or the opportunity to create that flow and harmony that can make a significant difference in our communities. And some of the questions that I ask myself is, are there ways that I might step more fully into governance, whether that means the actual government in our small towns, whether that means figuring out how to do something within a neighborhood? I ask myself, what role does the way that I teach play in community? And who am I able to bring things where am I teaching? I ask myself, where do I have influence? Am I recognizing the ways that I actually influence people who have power, people who have authority, people who are moving things on the ground in different ways? Am I a culture creator? Which ways am I a culture creator? How am I cultivating and nourishing the culture that is needed in these times? Where do I have opportunities to weave the community fabric and build relationships? Are there things that I actually know how to do that I'm not telling people about or that I'm not fully stepping into? I met so many people at this conference who actually have like practical knowledge about how you move things on the ground in community. Like, what do we know about where were the missing pieces of the puzzle? And then sort of finally, you know, how are we people who are waging peace all the time? Because I think that as much as I started with the recognition that this conference is an experience of connecting and flowing in harmony, I'm landing in this place of both transcended, this really deep statement, this deep question of how may a snowflake exist in a raging fire? I think even when I listen to the stories that people have shared, there's this sense that we feel like we're in conditions that can feel like a raging fire. But I ask, beyond how can a snowflake exist in a raging fire, how can it thrive in a raging fire? And I think that the way that we choose to see our neighbors and to see our governance structures and to see the issues that are facing our community, and we bring the gifts that we know that we have, that's what allows for the possibility of there to be solutions, the potential for thriving, the way in which we can exist in difficult conditions and at the same time personally have a sense of peace, a sense of thriving, and be in a sense of peace and thriving with our neighbors and with our community members, even ones who think and feel very differently than we do. And so we started out with this idea that, radically rural was based in rootedness. And it's true, rural communities, our small towns, we are rooted. We're rooted in place. We care about place. We care about the plants and the waters and the ground and the things, all the natural things that exist around us. And we care about the people that are around us. We are rooted. And when you have that rootedness and you have the type of energy and flow that exists at this conference and you have relationship, there is the possibility for us to actually rise in such a way that shows the rest of our country and the rest of our society what we need to do to thrive and to transcend in conditions that feel so challenging.
Thank you, Ed. Preparing for this conference has given Ed and I a lot of time to be in conversation with each other. We come from very, very different backgrounds. And I think I may have said this on a initial getting to know you call with Juliana. I was like, did you read the first line of my bio? The first line of my bio on the website says, I'm a Black queer feminist DC girl whose heart beats to the pocket, which is the rhythm that holds down DC go-go music and culture. And so to think about my connection to rural communities has actually been a gift, like the invitation to remember where I come from and where my people come from and the sensibilities that exist in me through my lineages. And that connection and that exploration led me to the story that I want to share in relation to these story circles as we close out this gathering. And the circle that calls to me is both transcended, because he likes to copy me. I want to close with a story that shaped how I understand sacred responsibility. Not just for myself, but for those who came before and those who are coming after. And it's related to our opening storytelling prompt, which was the story of our name. My last name is Flanagan. Coming to terms with my last name being Flanagan is a story of reckoning with the truth that I carry both the legacy of people who were enslaved and the people who enslaved them in my blood. I remember the moment when I saw the name of a white ancestor on a census record listed as a planter in Georgia. And just below that was a separate document, an inventory of enslaved people. No names, just ages, sexes, and a number that represented their monetary value. It wasn't a surprise exactly, but seeing it was different. Knowing it in my body, feeling the weight of that contradiction in my lineage and the ache of it. I was raised in a family deeply rooted in Black church traditions, in the rhythm of resistance and survival. My people have always known how to build community out of nothing. They knew how to organize, how to tell the truth through story and song, how to raise children and tomatoes and moral clarity in city houses and yards. But then there was this other story, a story of violence, of ownership, of silence, of people who built power on the backs of others and passed that power down through land, through wealth, through erasure. And I have to ask myself daily, what does it mean to carry both? What does it mean to belong to both the grief and the harm, and to carry both the medicine and the wound? I could have tried to bury it and pick a side, but I knew that was a lie. Because the truth is that I am the bridge. And being the bridge means I don't get to look away. It means I have to ask not just what I've inherited, but what I'm passing on. And it means that this idea of sacred responsibility is not abstract. It's not something we write into a strategic plan or etch into a monument. It's what we do every time we choose to tell the full story. It's how we show up in rooms like this, and we say, yeah, I carry contradiction, and I'm still building beloved community. In fact, contradiction is what makes beloved community possible. Holding the tension between the grief and the joy, the rage, the love, the harm and the healing, it's not a flaw in the process. It is the process. These tensions are where our real skill building happens. The tension is where compassion is forged, where courage is practiced. It's where we learn to sit in discomfort without retreating so that we can stay in relationship, so that we can stay and work and stay in community. Contradiction isn't the thing to solve. It's the soil that we grow in. And that's what makes beloved community possible. Not agreement, but commitment. We don't have to be the same. We have to be in solidarity. The lines don't have to be deep. The lines don't have to be clean, but the roots deep. I've come to believe that perhaps the most radical thing I can do with my story is to refuse to choose silence over the complexity and messiness of healing, reconciliation, and building beloved community. So I consider it my sacred responsibility to choose alchemy, to take the bricks some of my ancestors laid for oppression and remake them into altars, into gardens, into gathering spaces. This week, we sat in story circles with people who are also carrying complicated things: grief and hope, pride and pain, what was passed down and what was taken. And we dreamed futures where our descendants wake up in homes where they feel safe in their bodies, where they learn how to listen, where they don't need the word trauma because we did the work. But they don't get that world unless we do our part, unless we reconcile our stories, unless we build circles where no one is disposable, including the parts of ourselves that we were told we needed to hide. So, let's keep telling stories. Stories that are rooted in relationship, the kind that can hold complexity. Stories that are shaped by practice, not by performance. Stories about people who keep showing up with their grief, with their hope, with their contradictions, and still choose to build. That's what sacred responsibility looks like. It's imperfect, it's messy, it's courageous, and it's ongoing. But the best part is that we don't have to do it alone. We get to do it together with one another, with our ancestors at our back, with our descendants calling us forward. This is how we move. This is how we build. And this is how we keep walking together. Thank you so much for being in it together. Thank you so much. Yes. Can I just say one more thing? We just want to thank each of you for your courage, your vulnerability, your creativity. We didn't exactly know how it was going to go to say, yeah, we're going to do a keynote. We're going to ask people to tell stories all the time. And you all leaned in from the first. We were kind of blown away in the opening of how quickly you all just moved into yes. So thank you for your yes. It helped us to continue to move through. Thank you so much.
So how many of you were here last year for the closing? Okay. You're our closers, aren't you? So Shaylin's actually here with us in the audience, and you may recall that Nicole and I ended up coming and sitting with her as she did her talk, and it reminded me a lot of what you were describing when you were talking about the story of your last name and recognizing that you can't look away when you're the bridge, right? And so many of us now are called to be bridges. And I thought of that moment too. And I was like, the nice thing is, though, we don't have to do it alone. We can be in community as we do that bridging work. We can co-regulate. We can lift each other up. And so I was like, just like we kind of closed last year sitting here together, I was like, I want to come sit with you as we close. And some of the notes that I made just from that is, the reckoning with truth is really a theme that's come up a lot, both in our closing last year and then also throughout the sessions that we've had. And so one thing that I'm committed to in the reckoning is to deepen the conversations. So next year at the summit, I'm not going to have a whole slate of flashy new topics. I'm going to revisit some of these, and we're going to go deeper, and we're going to keep talking about the things that were clearly needs in communities. And so that's my commitment to you. And I also want to say that there is a place for you in this community, not just by showing up, in any way you want there to be. I mean, you've probably heard me mention Nicole like 7,000 times this week, and she sent me an email after the conference 2 years ago and was like, I think we should talk. And I was like, okay. And now my life has totally changed. So I think that reaching out and telling us how you want to be engaged, radicallyrural@hannahgrimes.com. Are you interested in being on the advisory group? Do you want to be helping to steward a track? Do you want to run a session? Do you want to just be in community, be on a text thread? Like what do you need and want out of this community? Because this exists for you. It is co-created by you. And as we move, it's fluid. It's like, oh, let's pull this in and let's grab this, and maybe, oh, they look like, we're following the energy, and you are a part of that. So please let us know how you want to be a part of it. I also think that be more librarian could be our mantra leaving here. And I was just cracking up noticing that the graphic recorder has the ball of yarn and Haley has the ball of yarn in the bottom left here. And both of our librarians were crafting during this, and I love it. You are creating constantly. I love it so much, and you're actually doing the thing we're talking about doing, so thank you for that. And I have just a couple more thank yous before we go, and I hope I haven't excluded anyone I should mention, but our videographer and photographer, where are they? I see videographer in the back. Oh, there, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us this week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What you do is really hard work physically. You are making it to all of the places. I was watching Jacob, the videographer, hold the camera up, and I was like, wow, it takes some strength. And both of them are, I'll say it the nonprofit way, providing in-kind services in addition to the small amount that we were able to pay them. And so thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Lisa. That's such a good point. Yeah, present and not obtrusive. And you helped me take care of Drew Kate the whole week. So thank you. Okay, so we are at time, and make sure to turn your lanyards in on your way out so we can reuse them, please. And then I hope to see you all at the after party because, the thing about the after party, if you've gone, is like, once the music starts, it's not super easy to have conversations. You can, but it's pretty loud. But it's really just about being together. We've done a lot of talking. We've done all the hard thinking. Let's just listen to some music and like move and be together, have a drink or however many you want, and then just spend time together. And there is a period of time after the doors open where the music hasn't started, where it's easier to have conversations and you can bring takeout and we can eat together. So I hope to see you there. But thank you so much for being here this week. And let's go forth and reckon with hard truths, tell stories, step into our sacred responsibility to build beloved community and be way more librarian. Thank you.